Okay, Class 10, let's do this. This is your ultimate last-minute revision for a super important chapter, food security. I know the exam is right around the corner, but don't you worry. We're going to lock in every key concept, every fact, and every figure you need so you can walk into that exam hall feeling totally confident. Ready? Let's jump right in.
First things first, and I can't stress this enough, the core definition. This one is completely non-negotiable. You have to know it by heart. So what is food security? It means availability, accessibility, and affordability of food to all people at all times. Say it with me. Seriously, burn this into your brain. It's the key that unlocks this entire chapter.
Now, how do you remember those three crucial words in the heat of the exam? Simple. Just think of the AAA of food security. We've got availability, accessibility, and affordability. Is the food even there? Can people get to it? And can they actually afford to buy it? Frame your long answers around these three A's, and trust me, you are going to score big.
Okay, let's dive into that first A, availability. This is the really big picture question, right? How does a huge country like India make sure there's actually enough food produced for over 1 billion people?
Now take a look at this graph. It tells a pretty amazing story. You see those lines for paddy and wheat? They're just shooting upwards from 1970 all the way to 2017. So the total production of our main food grains has gone up a lot. And on the surface, that looks like fantastic news for food availability, doesn't it? But, the details are what really matter.
And here's where you can show you really understand the topic. It's not just about total production, it's about yield. How much you can grow in a certain amount of space, like a hectare. And yeah, wheat and paddy yields are climbing, which is great. But look at that much flatter line for Nutri cereals. Their growth is pretty slow. This tells us our food production is really focused on just a couple of main crops. That's a fantastic point to make in an evaluation question.
Okay, so we're producing a ton of food. Awesome. But that's really just step one, isn't it? How does the government take this mountain of grain and actually manage it to make sure there's a steady supply for everyone all year round, even if there's a flood or a drought? Well, that brings us to a super important term, buffer stock. I want you to think of this as the nation's emergency food supply, our safety net. It's a massive stock of wheat and rice, mostly, that's bought and stored by a government agency you absolutely must name in your exam, the Food Corporation of India, or the FCI. So, how does the FCI actually get all that grain for the buffer stock? They use this really powerful tool called the Minimum Support Price, or MSP. This is basically a price guarantee. The government announces it before farmers even plant their crops, promising to buy their produce at that fixed price. It gives farmers security and encourages them to grow these really important crops.
So, we've ticked the box for availability. We've got the grain. It's sitting in the government's buffer stock. Now for our second A, accessibility. How does all that food get from a giant warehouse, say in Punjab, all the way to a family that needs it in Tamil Nadu?
The answer is this huge network called the Public Distribution System, or PDS. The flow is simple, but you got to remember it. The FCI buys grain from farmers at MSP. It gets stored in the buffer stock. Then, the central government sends it out to the states. And finally, it reaches people through local ration shops at a super cheap, subsidized price. This is literally the supply chain of food security in India.
But here's a question. Does the PDS work the same everywhere? Well, just look at this chart. In states like Tamil Nadu, the PDS is a total lifeline. A huge percentage of people depend on it. But then you look at a place like Punjab, and the dependency is way lower. So what's the takeaway? The success of the PDS varies a lot from state to state, which is a brilliant point for any analysis question.
Okay, everybody, listen up. Exam alert. This is one of the biggest things to happen in this chapter. In 2013, the government passed the National Food Security Act. Now, this wasn't just another scheme. This law literally turned food from being a government policy into a legal right for the people of India, a real game changer. And here are the numbers you absolutely have to drop in your answers. The NFSA covers a massive 2/3 of the entire population. It gives every person the legal right to 5 kilograms of grain every single month. And the prices? They're rock bottom. Rice for 3 rupees, wheat for 2 rupees. It even includes other important things like the midday meal scheme. I'm telling you, these details are pure gold for getting those top marks.
So we've got the production systems, we've got the distribution networks, we even have a law. But what's the reality on the ground? Is all of this effort actually making people healthier? Let's look at the ultimate test of food security, the actual nutritional status of the population.
So one common way to measure this is by looking at calorie intake. And please, please, please do not mix these two numbers up in the exam. The accepted daily norm is higher in rural areas, it's 2,400 kilocal, because of more physical work. In urban areas, it's a bit lower at 2,100 kilocal. Got it? Rural 2,400, urban 2,100. Okay, this slide is super important, so let's get this crystal clear. Underweight is pretty simple. It means low weight for your age. Stunting is when you have a low height for your age, which tells us there's been a long-term nutrition problem. And then there's wasting, which is low weight for your height, and that points to a more recent acute problem. And these numbers, they're shocking. Almost half of all children in the country are underweight. You need to know these three terms, and you need to know these figures.
And if you want to show just how serious this is, using a direct quote like this is so powerful. It points out that in some states, like Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh, more than half of the children are underweight. This is solid evidence that proves, despite all the systems we've talked about, the problem of malnutrition is still incredibly severe, especially in certain parts of the country.
All right, team, take a deep breath. We've gone through all the concepts. Now it's time for the final sprint. This is your ultimate cheat sheet. We're going to do a rapid-fire round of the top 10 things you absolutely must have in your head before you walk into that exam hall. Let's nail this down. Number 1, the definition: availability, accessibility, affordability. 2, MSP, the minimum support price. 3, buffer stock, the government's grain reserve. 4, PDS, the ration shop system. 5, NFSA 2013, that's 5 kg of grain for 2/3 of the population. 6, rural calorie norm, 2,400. 7, urban norm, 2,100. 8, underweight, low weight for age, 45%. 9, stunting, low height for age, 41%. And 10, wasting, low weight for height, 21%. You got this. Great.
And I'll leave you with this one last thing to chew on for those tricky high-level questions. We've seen that India produces enough food. We know that. But we also have some of the highest rates of malnutrition in the entire world. So what's the real problem here? Is it about production, or is it actually about distribution, access, and poverty? Think about that. You were ready? Go ace that exam.